Man, can y'all believe that there are still people out there doubting Georgia? Kirk Herbstreit, one of the most recognizable faces in college football media, said that he has Alabama and LSU slightly ahead of Georgia. Roll the clip, man.
What are we, May 31? It's hard for me not to lean towards Alabama in the SEC just because of what you described. Now, you got LSU, who made incredible strides in that first year with Brian Kelly. Got a lot coming back from that team. They beat Bama last year. They got to go to Tuscaloosa. So I would, those three are going to be everybody's three. As we sit here right now, I'm going to wait to see where we are in August. But I would be in that Bama LSU, just a little bit ahead of Georgia as we get ready for, getting into the summer months.
Now, it is really early in the summer. And as we come closer to the start of the college football season, Kirk Herbstreit can always change his opinion. But I have to strongly disagree with his take on this, bro. Like, there's no way you can tell me that Alabama and LSU are ahead of Georgia right now. The only concern that most people have about Georgia going into this season is their new offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, who's going to take over offensive play calling duties and replace a former OC, Todd Monken, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens. For Alabama, we don't even know who the hell is going to be starting at quarterback this season for them. Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, or Tyler Buckner. If you want to be able to beat Georgia, you need to have a quarterback who can make NFL caliber throws, and you also have to be able to have a wide receiving core that can challenge Georgia's secondary. Georgia still has the most talented secondary in all of college football. They only lost 2 starters, one of those guys being Keely Ringo, who is a liability at times. If you want to be able to beat Georgia, you have to be able to have elite level quarterback play. And you don't really know if you're going to get that out of Alabama this season. I get it. It's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. People are always going to give them the benefit of a doubt because of the greatness of Nick Saban. But Kirby Smart and this Georgia football program are on a way different level right now. And yes, Alabama has brought in their best recruiting classes in program history over the last couple of years. But they're not recruiting the kind of animals that Georgia is on the line of scrimmage, bruh. Do you not see the defensive linemen that Georgia has put in the NFL over the last couple of years? Jordan Davis at 40 pounds ran a 4.840 at the NFL Combine not too long ago. Jalen Carter, the demon from Apaka, bro, was a one-man wrecking machine against LSU in the SEC championship game. And you look at LSU, yes, they do have a really talented roster. They are more than capable of being able to not only win the SEC this year, but also competing for the national championship game. Same thing with Alabama. But right now, I feel like if you don't have Georgia as the number 1 team in college football going into this year, you're being really disrespectful to Georgia, man. And I get it. Everybody has a right to have their own opinion. But right now, Georgia is here in college football and everybody else is right here. People are playing catch up to Georgia. Kirby Smart is playing NCAA 14 Dynasty mode on freshman difficulty, man. Georgia, we're talking about them potentially being able to three-peat. Carson Beck looked really spectacular in Georgia's spring game. I have no concerns about any position on Georgia's roster. Their wide receiving core is as talented as it has been in years. Their offensive line is still spectacular, bro. Like, no team right now should be above Georgia. If you are making any top 25, Georgia should be number 1. There is no team right now that has done what Georgia has done over the last couple of seasons. Kirby Smart's defense has been out of this world. It's taken historical performances out of certain teams to be able to come remotely close to being able to beat Georgia. Did you not see what CJ Stroud did against Georgia's defense in the semifinals, bruh? This dude had the greatest game of his collegiate career, bruh. Like, if you want to be able to beat Georgia, not only do you have to be on your A game, but you have to have one of your best games of your whole entire career. You remember back going into the 2021 SEC championship game where Alabama had barely survived Auburn. It took them multiple overtime periods to close out Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and people were thinking going into that SEC championship game that Alabama was going to get steamrolled by Georgia. And then Bryce Young somehow, some way, has one of the greatest games ever. He ends up looking like God on the gridiron and leads Alabama to the upset victory over Georgia in the SEC championship, bro. It has taken historical performances for people to even come close to beating Georgia. Not only that, but you have to have a wide receiving core that's able to challenge Georgia's secondary, and you have to be able to have elite level quarterback play. You got to have a quarterback that can make high level throws against Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp's defense. You mean to tell me that you think Jalen Milroe is capable of being able to do that? We don't even know how good Alabama's offensive line is going to be. Their offensive line has not been that good over the last 2 seasons, man. And when it's the last time Alabama's defensive line really has some dogs on it, man? The last good defensive lineman that I can remember coming out of Alabama going into the NFL was Christian Barmore. Georgia is just on a way different level right now, people. I think that the rest of the SEC is playing catch up to Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs football program, bro. Like, do you not see what the hell they recruit in the trenches, bro? Like, they just don't recruit big guys who are big and have above average athleticism, bro. Like, they are recruiting 1% athletes, fam. You don't find Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on trees. And they got another demon out there, Najee Stackhouse, number 78. He's going to be the next monster that they're going to be trotting out there this season that's going to be wrecking havoc on opposing teams' offensive lines. Bro, like, I don't understand why people continue to doubt Georgia. The last time I doubted Georgia, you know what happened to me? I lost $300. I thought last season Tennessee was going to go on the road to Athens, Georgia and upset Georgia. And boy, they didn't end up upset. I was the one ended up upset because not only did Tennessee get their soul snatched by Georgia, but Hendon Hooker was getting thrown around by like a rag doll. And I ended up losing a lot of money. And after that game, I promised myself I would never bet against Georgia ever again. And then there were actually some people out there who thought that TCU had a chance to upset Georgia. And I was telling everybody going into that national championship that TCU had zero chance to beat Georgia. And I know it sounded harsh. I know it's college football. Anything can happen. But Georgia was just on a different playing field than what TCU is. When TCU was down several touchdowns and Georgia had scored 1 touchdown before halftime, they cut the camera to Sonny Dykes on the sideline, and you know what he was saying? He was saying, wow. You want to know why he was saying wow? Because the kind of talent that Georgia had on the field in that game, he did not know what to think of it. It was out of this world. Like, Georgia right now is just on a completely different level than every other team in college football, bro. Like, Georgia is the clear-cut best team in college football going into this season. Now, when the season happens and the games start getting played, then okay, you can start changing your rankings. But for right now, Georgia should be your number 1 team. If you're making any power ranking, any top 25, if you don't have Georgia as the number 1 team in college football, you are entitled to your opinion, but you're tripping, fam. You're tripping hard. Do you not see what the hell Kirby Smart is recruiting on the offensive line and the defensive lines, bro? Like, Alabama and LSU, they recruit some dogs, but Georgia's recruiting monsters, fam. Monsters. Whoever the hell is in charge of running the recruiting staff when it comes to defensive linemen and offensive linemen on Georgia's staff, Alabama and LSU, they need to go steal that guy off Georgia's coaching staff and give him a raise, bro, because he got the cheat codes. The guys that Georgia has been recruiting up front are like some shit that you see on the X-Men movie. They're not humans. They're mutants. Where do you find Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis at, fam? These are the kind of athletes that Georgia has. Now, LSU and Alabama, and all due respect, they have athletes that are cyborgs. LSU has Harold Perkins. Alabama has Dallas Turner. But Georgia has a whole defensive line and offensive line of freaking mutants, fam. Broderick Jones. I'm a Steelers fan. Do you know how hyped I was when we drafted Broderick Jones, fam? Not only is this guy big, but this guy has incredible athleticism. If you're a linebacker or a defensive back and Broderick Jones is coming at you, you better move the fuck out of the way, bro, because you're about to get steamrolled. Georgia is just on a different stratosphere than any other team in college football. The only team right now that I think has the best shot at beating Georgia this year and keeping them from three-peating is Ohio State. Their roster is just as good as their roster is just as good as Georgia. They have multiple guys who are expected to be first-round picks. They have an elite wide receiving core, and their quarterback position is in a way better state than Alabama's. I love me some Jalen Milroe. This guy is a fantastic athlete, but there's no way in hell Alabama is going to be able to beat Georgia with him at quarterback, because I don't know if he's capable of making those high-level NFL throws that are needed to have success against Kirby Smart's defense. And let's not act like Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs weren't carrying Alabama's offense. Yeah, they made some changes. They got rid of their offensive coordinator and Bill O'Brien. He's with New England. Pete Golden left for Ole Miss, and they bring in Tommy Rees, who is one of the more up-and-coming, promising offensive coordinators that we have in the sport right now, bruh. But I mean, they had to go get help at quarterback in the transfer portal and Tyler Buckner, bruh. Like, how is Alabama slightly ahead of Georgia right now, man? Like, Georgia, if anything, should be above LSU and Alabama. LSU, they still have to prove to us that their offensive line is going to be good enough to go toe-to-toe with Georgia. Yeah, they got the QB and Jaden Daniels. They have the receivers that are needed to be able to challenge Georgia's secondary. But are they going to have the consistent offensive line play? Are they going to be good enough up front on the defensive line to be able to slow down Georgia's rushing attack or their offensive linemen? Like, these are the things that you need if you're trying to beat Georgia. Georgia just is on a different level right now, bro. And I get a little bit irritated anytime I hear people doubting Georgia. And no, I'm not a Georgia fan. I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. Okay, just throwing that out there so nobody tries to say you're a biased Georgia fan. I'm just calling this shit how I see it right now, bro. Nobody right now is messing with Georgia. Georgia should be the undisputed #1 team in college football right now. They should be the front runner to win the SEC. And yes, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but maybe you need to go back and watch what Georgia did to TCU in the national championship so you can get a reminder of what Kirby Smart has up there in Athens, Georgia. Because this dude doesn't have no damn football players, fam. He has cyborgs out there, people. Freaking Borgs. Y'all gotta wake up, bruh. People still are doubting Georgia? Did you not hear Kirby Smart's prep talk before the semifinal game against Ohio State, bruh? That shit had me wanting to go out there and play some ball and put some pads on and put a helmet on, man. Y'all just giving Kirby Smart in Georgia more billboard material, as they call it, bruh. I really can't believe Kirk Herbstreit really would say he's slightly leaning towards Alabama and has LSU above Georgia. What? Come on, bruh. Like, Georgia still is the best team in college football going into this year, man. Like, it really should not be a debate. They don't rebuild, they reload. It's like they be making these guys come off a conveyor belt, man. It's like they just be going, choo-choo. Juju. It's like, y'all ever watched Captain America? You remember when Steve Rogers went from being a little scrawny little kid, and then they inject him with that super soldier serum, and then he come out buff as hell like the Hulk? Bruh, that's what Georgia's football program is doing up there, bro. Like, I don't know what the hell Kirby Smart is feeding those boys up there, bro. But the NCAA, they might need to go up there and check it out for a week or two, bro. Just to make sure Georgia isn't doing anything they not supposed to be doing up there, bro. Because they ain't breathing athletes up there in Georgia, fam. They're breathing freaking metahumans. Jordan Davis at 340 pounds, dog, ran a 4.82. These are the kind of athletes that Georgia is putting on the field. Alabama got carried by Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs last season. You mean to tell me that you have more confidence in them to put them slightly above Georgia? You're doubting Kirby Smart, the man who's won 2 back-to-back national championships, bro? Like, I get it. It's Nick Saban. I get it. Brian Kelly had a fantastic first year. But come on, bro. Like, and for the people out there that think Michigan has a shot at being able to beat Georgia this year, no the hell they don't. And they didn't have a shot last year. They would have got dragged through the mud. Not as bad as what TCU did, but they would have got dog walked by Georgia too if they would have made it to the national championship game. All Michigan is a diet version of Georgia. And Michigan still doesn't have the elite talent at wide receiver to be able to challenge Georgia's secondary. When you're trying to beat Georgia, you need to be elite up front. You got to have as many dogs up front on the line of scrimmage as they do, no pun intended, and you got to have elite wide receivers that can push that secondary, man. Why do you think Ohio State came the closest out of all the teams that Georgia played last year to beating them? It came down to a missed field goal that won the game for Georgia. They had an elite quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who was the 2nd overall pick in this past year's draft. They had elite receivers all across the board. Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver in college football. Some people make the argument and say that he's the best player in college football going into this year. Like, bruh, Alabama has Nick Saban. Okay, I respect that. But you have to give credit where credit is due to Georgia right now, bruh. They're the kings. They're the top dog. I'm not doubting Alabama. I'm not doubting Nick Saban. I'm not doubting Brian Kelly or LSU, fam. I'm just telling you right now that it's just a tad bit disrespectful when Georgia is at the peak of their game right now, and you have Alabama and LSU who have way more question marks right now than what Georgia has. Their only concern is Mike Bobo. That's it. I mean, bro, like, I really get a little bit riled up when people sleep on Georgia, fam. There's no team in college football right now that has what Georgia has. They're on a different level. These boys just might win 4 straight national championships. Honest to God. Like, I don't know what the hell Kirby Smart is doing up there in Athens, Georgia, but he needs to be investigated. And some of those players may need to be drug tested. I have a friend, well, I went to school with Jaheim Singletary. And if you're a Georgia fan, you know who Jaheim Singletary is, a.k.a. Slim. I went to high school with this dude at Riverside, formerly known as Robert E. Lee High School, for 2 years, fam. And this dude is the freaking dog. And he didn't even start last season at Georgia. He transferred to Arkansas. And he's a real good football player, fam. He's going to end up being a high draft pick whenever he declares for the NFL draft. He's going to ball out at Arkansas this year. And he didn't even start last season for Georgia. That tells you how talented Georgia is. Jaheim Singletary was the best cornerback in Jacksonville. They played against, my high school played against Carson Beck. Carson Beck was dotting them boys up. The only person who wasn't getting dotted up was Slim. And that's when they had Demario Douglas on that squad. That squad won the state championship that season, fam. Nearly their whole entire starting receiving core went D1. So Jaheim, Slim, he didn't even get the start last season. And he's going to Arkansas. And this dude is him for real. He's like a Jalen Ramsey clone. If he didn't start, that tells you how stacked Georgia is. He could have transferred to Alabama and started this season. For real. Georgia right now is just on a different playing field. They're playing chess. Everybody's playing checkers. Yeah, Nick Saban and LSU, they're recruiting at a really high level. Alabama has brought in some of their best recruiting classes ever over the last couple of years, but they're not bringing in the kind of dudes up front that Georgia is bringing in. Georgia was winning national championships, not having fantastic wide receivers. Just keeping in the stack, they won 2 national championships with the mailman Stetson Bennett. And salute to Sir Stetson, man. But this dude was a walk-on quarterback. A walk-on quarterback. They're going to end up making a Disney movie about what Stetson Bennett did at Georgia, fam. Because what Stetson Bennett did was kind of legendary. If they don't make a Disney movie about Stetson Bennett, fam, Disney is missing out on a lot of money. They need to make a movie called Sir Stetson. That's all they got to call it, Sir Stetson. They were winning back-to-back titles with a walk-on quarterback. Meanwhile, Alabama has 3 highly recruited quarterbacks on their roster, and we don't even know if any of those guys are good enough to get Alabama to a national championship. What are we doing right now? What are we doing? Alabama's offensive line hasn't been that good over the last couple of seasons. I don't even know to this day how the hell their offensive line was able to hold up in the 2021 SEC championship against Georgia when they struggled all season up to that point. They barely survived Auburn. Like, they just put a rabbit in the hat. They shook that thing up. They pulled out a good deck of cards. They prayed to the football gods. And they had Bryce Young, who was playing like a man possessed that day. Like, I really don't understand why people are sleeping on Georgia. And I'm going to say it one more time if you guys are not getting my point. If you don't have Georgia as your number 1 team going into this season, you're tripping. You're entitled to your own opinion, but if you don't know what Georgia's doing right now, you need to go back and rewatch that national championship game. Go back and rewatch what the hell they did to Tennessee last year. Tennessee had college football's best offense, and yet Georgia shut that shit down. I'm sorry I sound so riled up right now, man. Like, y'all may think I'm being over the top or I'm being over dramatic, bro, but I get really passionate about talking about college football, man. Like, I really love this sport for real, fam. And I get really riled up when people doubt greatness. What Georgia is doing right now is about to win their 3rd national title. They're about to three-peat. I don't know when the last time in college football history somebody three-peated, fam, but I think Georgia damn near might do it, bruh. For real, bruh. People are really counting out Georgia again, and y'all giving them billboard material. When are y'all gonna learn? When are y'all gonna learn, bruh? Like, Georgia is so different right now, bruh. Y'all gotta understand this. The guys who they are recruiting on the offensive line and the defensive line, bruh, are unbelievable. They're recruiting freaking aliens. Jalen Carter, the monster from Apocalypse, fam, where do you find that at? Does Alabama have a Jalen Carter or a Jordan Davis on their defensive line? Hell no. Does LSU have that? Hell no. We don't even know if their offensive line is going to be good enough to hold up against Georgia this year if they make it to the SEC championship game, man. And plus, the SEC West is way more competitive than what a lot of you guys are giving it credit for. You may think it's Alabama, LSU, and everybody else, but newsflash, people, Texas A&M's roster is up there with LSU's. They've been bringing in top recruiting classes. All they really need is for Jimbo Fisher to keep his hands off the damn play calling and let Bobby Petrino do his thing. Let Bobby Petrino cook with Connor Wigman, and the boys damn near might have a shot at winning the SEC West. Like, bruh, why are people doubting Georgia? Kirk Herbstreit, man, I love you, brother. I love you. You're a big inspiration for why I do this. I grew up listening to you talk and commentate over the NCAA football games, bruh. But you tripping right now. You got Alabama slightly favored to win the SEC? What? Georgia returns mostly all their starters but 2 in the secondary. Yeah, Alabama may have more returning players and product, man. F all this, the metrics and the statistics, man. Like, I don't care about returning production and who has who coming back returning, bruh. All I know is that Georgia continues to put some bullies on the field. When you get on the field with Georgia, bruh, it's not about just how talented you are at wide receiver, but it's also about, do you got them dogs on the line of scrimmage? That's why I was telling y'all a couple months ago, TCU had no shot at beating Georgia. They were able to upset Michigan. I told y'all, if Michigan didn't blow out TCU and that game was close after halftime, TCU was going to win that game. You can go back and rewatch that, fam. TCU outcoached and outperformed Michigan. Michigan did not show up in that game. And even then, even if Michigan won that game, they were going to get smacked by Georgia. And if Michigan ends up making it to the national championship this year and they play Georgia, they're going to get smacked. Michigan does not have what it takes to beat Georgia. And LSU and Alabama, they may have the talent, but I doubt they have them demons up front to be able to beat Georgia. They may be able to keep it close, and they probably will, but I'm still putting my money on Georgia to pull through. Kirby Smart and Georgia, they just in the zone right now, bro. Like, you ever seen a player before the game just look locked in? That's Georgia's football program right now. They're locked in. They're focused. It doesn't matter how many championships they win. They celebrate for a couple of weeks, and then they're on to the next season. New goal, new challenge. And all y'all doing is giving Kirby Smart and this team more fuel to the fire. When are y'all gonna learn, bro? Like, y'all gonna learn the hard way. And don't learn the hard way like how I did against Tennessee with money going down the drain. Like Vegas, when Georgia ended up smacking Tennessee, Vegas was like, thank you, JT. We appreciate your donation. Because that's pretty much what I did. I really thought that Tennessee had a chance to beat Georgia on the road. Like, somebody should have smacked the shit out of me. Like, why would anybody allow me to put money on Tennessee beating Georgia? Like, why? Y'all people, y'all got to stop counting out Georgia, man. Like, I get it. There hasn't really been a team in however many years that's been able to three-peat. But Georgia damn near might do it. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing up there in Athens, fam, but they might need to be investigated. They just might. Because it's unbelievable the kind of dudes who they put on the offensive line and the defensive line. And now wide receiver, they're hitting the transfer portal. Yeah, they're using the transfer portal too. That's scary. Georgia using the transfer portal? Getting some of the best talent out of it? That's scary. That's scary. Alabama was using the transfer portal last season, and they lost 2 games. They still weren't all that great. If you take Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs off last year's Alabama team, how many games would they have won last year? If they didn't have Bryce Young, they probably would have lost to Texas, even without Quinn Ewers. And that's another thing, man. Like, Texas just damn near might beat Alabama this season. And when it happens, you're going to be like, oh, man, like I thought Alabama was a favorite to win the SEC. You're going to start looking at Alabama a little bit different. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, like, the rest of the teams in college football are playing catch up to Georgia. Georgia is running laps around everybody, fam. Everybody. And they're making it too damn easy with this easy schedule. Their best team that they play this season is Tennessee, and they don't play them until the first to last game of the regular season. Like, bruh, y'all just making it too easy for Georgia right now, bruh. Georgia looking at y'all, they sitting back and they saying, they counting us out again. Kirby Smart listening to this right now, listening to that audio of Kirk Herbstreit saying, man, I got Alabama and LSU slightly above Georgia. And he shaking his head. He like, okay. While he look at those two championship rings that he has on his fingers, and he's looking at those 2 national titles that he just won in back-to-back years. He's probably laughing. He's probably cracking his knuckles like this, probably cracking his neck, probably, doing a little shoulder roll and something like that. And he probably like, okay. So this what they going with this year? Like, come on, bro. Y'all make it seem like just anybody is capable of being able to beat Georgia. And I understand it's college football any given Saturday. But it takes a certain kind of quarterback and a certain kind of team to be able to beat Georgia, bruh. Like, Georgia is a different program from what they used to be. They're just on a different playing field. I don't give a damn what kind of recruiting classes Alabama has had. They aren't recruiting the kind of monsters up front that Georgia is. And that's why people are losing to Georgia. Like, bro, and now they're going in the transfer portal and getting more talent to address positions of concern. Y'all should be terrified right now, bro. Like, I don't know how the hell you can't have Georgia as your number one team going into this year, bro. Nobody is fucking with the Bulldogs right now, bro. And I'm so passionate about Georgia, bro, because I recognize greatness. I really do. What Kirby Smart is doing right now is different. He's playing dynasty mode on freshman difficulty with the sliders up to 100. Nobody is messing with them. Like, it has taken some historical performances to attempt to knock off Georgia. Bro, we saw C.J. Stroud do shit that we ain't see him do his whole entire career, man. This man, C.J. Stroud, was pulling out all the stops to take down Georgia. And at the end of the day, they came close, but no cigar. You remember that little insurance commercial? I don't know if it was Progressive or Allstate, but used to have the guy with the little fishing hook with the little $1 bill. He was like, oh, you got to be quicker than that. Oh, you got to be quicker than that. It's like, damn, bruh. Like, the only team that I believe truthfully has the best shot at knocking off Georgia this year is Ohio State. Honestly, they have a lot of talent returning on the defensive line. Their secondary should be more improved. Their defensive coordinator, I can't think of his name right now. But their offensive line is going to be amongst the best in the country. It doesn't really matter who they're going to have at QB. Like, I trust Ryan Day and his offense. And plus, whoever the quarterback is going to be this year, they're going to be throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., who in some people's eyes is considered to be the best player in college football. That's really the only team that right now I think has a legitimate shot at beating Georgia. And I'm not counting out nobody. I'm just saying that Georgia is on a different playing field. When you play Georgia, you not only have to be on your A game, but you have to be ready to have the best game of your life. Georgia could struggle in one half and come back and shape back in the second half and snatch the soul out your body. Tennessee went into that game super confident. But then, when they recognized what the hell they were up against, they shrunk. Like, they just got out of sorts. They got rattled. Bro, like, when are y'all going to realize that Georgia is just on a different playing field, bro? Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, they're not on Georgia's level right now. They're playing catch-up right now. Alabama doesn't even know who their quarterback's going to be. And it's a good chance the guy who ends up being the starter week 1 may not be the guy who ends up being the starter come the end of the regular season. Like, Georgia has way less areas of concern to worry about compared to LSU and Alabama. LSU still has to prove to us that their offensive line is going to be elite this year. Because you need elite offensive line play to win the championship, especially in this conference. LSU was good year 1 under Brian Kelly, but that was with the down Ole Miss, with the down Texas A&M. You got to account for the other teams who were down last year who are going to be good this year. Texas A&M very well could be the second best team in the SEC West this year. They damn near could win it. Ole Miss, this is probably their most stacked offense that they've had in their few years under Lane Kiffin. We don't know who the hell is going to be starting at QB, but they're not in a bad spot. They got 3 guys who are all capable of being able to have success. I don't get why people are kind of overlooking Georgia. Like, come on, bro. This is the best program in college football at this moment. They're coming off back-to-back national championships. They are about to three-peat. Wake up! Are y'all up right now, bro? I know it's 1:06 a.m. at the time I'm recording this, bro, but damn! Y'all people, some of y'all really counting out Georgia? I'm off this, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe to the channel, listen to the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the JT Sports Podcast. Rate us 5 stars if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and I will see you shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.